Buenas tardes, mi nombre es David González y hoy vamos a hacer una entrevista aquí en el noticiero de Green News. Entonces, damos la bienvenida a este programa y te vamos a hacer una serie de preguntas.
Vale.
Bueno, empecemos. ¿Cuántos carros tienes?
Uno.
¿Listo? ¿Qué tan frecuente usas el carro?
2 veces por semana.
¿Qué tan seguido inviertes en gasolina a la semana?
1 vez por semana.
Según usted, ¿qué es lo que más afecta a la atmósfera?
La cantidad de gas emitido por los carros.
¿Está consciente de los daños causados por la emisión de dióxido de carbono?
Sí, pues tengo conocimiento sobre eso.
¿En qué gasolinera suele invertir más?
En Texaco.
¿Y qué tipo de gasolina prefiere?
Utilizo corriente porque pues le hemos aplicado esta desde el inicio que compramos el auto y si cambiamos pues se va a dañar. Entonces por eso utilizamos esto.
¿Sabe usted las consecuencias de esto?
Sí, tengo conocimiento de que daña bastante el ambiente.
¿Tendría usted una solución para esto?
Tal vez utilizar otros medios de transporte. Esto es lo que tratamos de hacer.
¿Cómo los humanos podrían ayudar a solucionar el problema?
Pues pienso que tal vez viendo cómo utilizar lo que yo te decía, otros medios de transporte, tener menos pues, cantidad de vehículos circulando pues, en las ciudades, porque es lo que más ocasiona que se generen tantos daños en el medio ambiente.
¿Listo? A pesar de esto, ¿ha pensado cómo afectaría a futuras generaciones?
Sí, bastante. Pensaba en esto más que todo es por la densidad del humo, cómo nos ha dañado a poco a las personas que vivimos en las grandes ciudades y cómo nos contamina a nosotros en general. Entonces he pensado, si ya estamos así, ¿cuál será la vida que viene por delante?
Y la última pregunta, ¿cuál sería su campaña para la reducción de dióxido de carbono?
Pues sería más la idea para mí como del uso de bicicletas o tal vez el uso de los medios de transporte masivo. Pues tratar de que al utilizar esto no se vean tantos vehículos en la calle y se vea menos el daño pues, en el medio ambiente.
Listo, muchas gracias por su tiempo.
Hello, today we are going to do an analysis of some questions that we do in a survey to different people. One of these questions was, how many cars did you have? The 55.88% of the people answered that they only have 1 car. Another question was, how frequently did you use your car? 50% of the people answered that they use it very frequently. Another question was, how frequently did you spend in gasoline? 67.65% of the people answered that they spent very frequently in gasoline. Another question was, in your opinion, what is the factor that affects most the atmosphere? 11.67% of the people answered that they consider that the gases emissions affects more the atmosphere. Another question was, are you concerned about the diseases caused by the CO2 emission in the atmosphere? 50% of the people answered that they are conscient and they consider it important. Another question was, in what station did you spend more money? 29.41% of the people answered that they spend more money in Texaco. Another question was what gasoline did you prefer? What type of gasoline did you prefer? The 69.7% of the people answered that they prefer the gasolina corriente. Taking into account this data and the number of cars and the time that the people use it, we can say that the industry have to provide more gasoline. That says that this means that more natural resources and more time are required to produce more gasoline. And also the amount of cars say to us that there are going to be more CO2 emission gas.
Okay, now let's talk about the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This is caused by the burning fossil fuels, decomposition, and others. According to the Manual Observatory, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is very dense, and according to the World Meteorological Organization, this concentration has reached and passed the threshold of 400 parts per million in 2015. This is a record for at least 3 million years ago, when there was no human being. This is an alarming situation, because the Earth cannot absorb these emissions as fast as we created. This has made the scientists give an alert, because if we do not control these emissions, we cannot fight the global warming and prevent the climate change. The scientists also ensure that the world has more silence, and the worst is yet to come.
Talk about and explain the scientific research and respective scientific information about all this general topic about CO2 emissions and carbon dioxide contamination and pollution in our society. So nowadays the industrialization and the technological development and different creations of humankind are one of the main factors and main reasons of the actual pollution and actual condition of our environment and mainly our atmosphere. On the most important and actual problems are those the nocive gas emissions such as CO2 and other type of gases like oxides, nitrogen oxides, and methane. Technically, the whole combustion-based creation of the humankind are the responsible of those nocive gases emissions that damage and truly damage the environment and the atmosphere. The CO2 or carbon dioxide is one of the most nocive gases that we can find. The carbon dioxide emissions are one of the most important factors that really damages the atmosphere. The actual technological development and the imperative need of transport are one of the main reasons of why the humankind, the human race, create the cars. The cars, like those tools of transport, help us in order to go from one side to another, from a point A to a point B. But unfortunately, those create like a big damage in our atmosphere and in our environment. The cars along the world create a lot of damage to our environment, to our ecosystem, with the emissions of carbon dioxide. In United States, or USA, has the greatest concentration of population and inhabitants, and also of cars. In 1998, United States or USA has 965 vehicles for each 1,000 inhabitants, like we can see in these following graphs. Also, in 1998, in Colombia, there were 148 vehicles for each 1,000 inhabitants in the country. However, the stats changed a long time. So nowadays, like more frequently statistics, we can know that for 18 years since 1998, it changed exponentially. In 2009, there were 4,240 vehicles for 1,000 vehicles in the country, which each day pollute the atmosphere and contaminate the whole environment in we are living for. Each car changes its CO2 emissions, so it's really hard to find like an average value that defines or determines like the general or average contamination that each car can produce. But making some math, we can know that if we have a car that travels 1,200 kilometers in a year and only uses 7 liters, produces about 1,440 kilograms of CO2 each year. This is like a very high value for one of the best cases that we can find in the car. So other cars, such bigger cars, other types of buses or other types of transport, contaminate a lot more. The CO2 production of vehicles are generated due to the combustion of the fossil fuel that the humankind uses in order to impulse its industrialization. such as cars and other types of industries. This non-renewable resource produces a significant amount of CO2 or carbon dioxide to the environment, which contaminates in a significant way the general ecosystem. This makes that it loses the general equilibrium of the carbon cycle. But what is the carbon cycle? The carbon cycle is one of the most important cycles that we can find in the environment and in the nature. So it's really important to find its equilibrium in order to find like a stable environment. The carbon cycle is responsible of transporting the carbon in different manifestations, different types of matter, through the different living organisms in our ecosystem. It starts in the plants, in the vegetative structures with the sun and other different chemical processes, which creates the glucose, the 6H12 or 6 that we know. In the first part, the C, it's carbon, so it's a carbon-based compound. This carbon-based compound is responsible for the energy that other different organisms can have, like mammals or reptiles and other different living organisms that can have like different types of locomotion. Through the different trophic levels, this glucose, these chemical compounds, carbon-based chemical compounds, is passed to the trophic levels in order to continue with the carbon cycle. Then when they die, they accumulate all those carbon compounds and transform and become in the fossil fuel combustion, fossil fuel such as gas, gasoline or coal, that the humankind later is going to use in order to do its industrialization. The remaining part of carbon, it's still in the ocean in forms of calcium carbonate. Industrialization uses the fossil fuel, like I previously said, the coal, the gas, and the gasoline in order to potentiate their technological development. This means that it increases the general CO2, the carbon dioxide emissions or levels in the atmosphere, that is one of the most important and major reservoirs of this important resource. Unfortunately, we increase in an exponential way those CO2, these carbon dioxide levels, making that it like loses its equilibrium, creating different effects that we're going to talk later about global warming. So, see you later.
Now, talking about Colombia, according to the Secretary of Environment, Bogota produces 10 million tons of carbon dioxide per year, from which 50,000 are caused by burning fossil fuels. Also, this entity indicates that industrial facilities in Bogota produce 70% of the total emissions in the year. This can indicate that Bogota produces only 0.02% of the global emissions. Now, if we compare Colombia with other countries, we can see that Colombia is not a producer that produces too much carbon dioxide in the year. For example, we can compare Colombia to the European Union. In the European Union, it produces 6.25% of the total emissions in the world, and Colombia only produces 2.5% of the total emissions. This can be caused by the ubication of Colombia in the tropical zone and because of the high populational density in the European Union.
The effects of burning of CO2 are known as carbon dioxide. The effects of the CO2 burn is the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect is composed of many gases, but the most important gas is CO2, which compounds at 54 to 66% of this effect. This is consecutive to the global warming. The global warming is raising up the temperatures of the earth, melting the poles, making the drinkable water of the poles.
Scientists invite audience to think about the future and the new generations, because we must give them a healthy earth. From Juan Diego Rojas to Win the News. Thanks.
And the main recommendation for the reduction of the production of the CO2 are driving less than 50 kilometers each week by using the public transport or using a bike.